So, good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fine and you guys are absolutely perfect. So, today is 27th of June 2026, and this is the time when we should start with the analysis of today's The Hindu, right? So, today we have a few very important news items that we will be covering in today's session, and after that, as a regular routine, we will solve questions based upon the important days of January 2026, right? So let's start with today's session. So this is going to be the first news item that we have to, or the first news headline that we have to discuss, and it is basically, and we had a very brief discussion about this thing, that the embezzlement of certain assets um, at Ram Lala or Ram temple, right, which is being constructed in Ayodhya. So now finally, now let me tell you this entire timeline of the events which have happened recently. So earlier there were certain allegations that there are a few people who are involved in the embezzlement of assets at Ram temple, and after these allegations were made, the government of Uttar Pradesh constituted a high level committee, a special investigation committee. A special investigation team was constituted by the government of UP, and when that particular investigation team submitted its report, after considering that particular report, an FIR was filed against 8 accused, and all those 8 accused has been finally sent to the judicial custody. In this particular context, one name is very important, that is Champat Rai, who is the chief of the temple trust, right? He is the chief of temple trust, and all these 8 accused were very close fellows to Mr. Champat Rai, who is currently the chief of the Ram Temple Trust. And now they were involved. These 8 individuals are involved in the embezzlement of a lot of assets, like gold गायब कर दिया, सिल्वर ब्रिक्स गायब कर दी, जो गोल्ड के ज्वेलरीज वगैरह थे वो गायब कर दिया, बहुत सारा कैश उन्होंने गायब कर दिया डोनेशन बॉक्सेस से, राइट? So these allegations are of very serious in nature, and that's why they have been taken into judicial custody, and now a proper thorough investigation will be conducted. Now this is the second news. Now this is a kind of a tribute from my side to all the fallen soldiers, and these 6 soldiers martyred during the Operation Sindoor. So finally, for the first time, the government of India has released name of all 6 security personnels who were killed during Operation Sindoor. They were martyred during Operation Sindoor. So this is the first official recognition by the government of India. It came exactly after a year or so. So these are Subedar Major Pawan Kumar, Rifleman Sunil Kumar, and he has been also given Veer Chakra. Rifleman Sunil, who has been presented with Veer Chakra, Lance Nayak Dinesh Kumar, Agniveer Mood Murli Nayak, Havaldar Sunil Kumar Singh, Sergeant Surendra Kumar, who was presented with Vayu Sena Medal. Right. So out of these 6, martyred soldiers, 5 were from the Indian Army and 1 was from Indian Air Force. So deepest condolences to the families of the fallen soldiers. But again, for the first time, the government of India has openly, acknowledged the contribution or the supreme sacrifice made by all these 6 security personnel. So I mean, this is a kind of sad news, but again, we have to move ahead with our discussion. So today we have very important, few very important news pieces that we will cover. One is related to the India and Myanmar border issue. The second one is related to Kacha Thivu Island, and the third one is India-New Zealand free trade agreement. So we will be covering these 3 news items in very detail. Now, Iran reassert its right to control shipping in Strait of Hormuz after a vessel was hit. So I mean, yesterday a vessel was hit by the security forces of Iran, and after this particular attack was being made by Iran, they have asserted that we have absolutely every right to control shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran reasserted its right on Friday to control shipping in the Strait of Hormuz and warned Gulf states against siding with the US a day after an attack on a ship near Oman highlighted the fragility of a preliminary deal to end the Iran war. So we know this, on 21st of January, a formal deal was signed between Iran and United States of America, and this particular deal was signed with the objective to pause this particular war till 21st of August. 21st of August तक ये लोग एक comprehensive peace negotiation deal डील साइन करेंगे. बट ड्यूरिंग दीज नेगोशिएशंस आर गोइंग ऑन, ड्यूरिंग दिस इंटायर कोर्स ऑफ नेगोशिएशन, ईरान हैज हिट अनदर शिप इन द स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज एंड दे हैव सेड कि जितनी भी गल्फ कंट्रीज हैं उनको अमेरिका की साइड लेने की जरूरत नहीं है, बिकॉज वी हैव एब्सोल्युटली एवरी राइट टू कंट्रोल एंड डोमिनेट द स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज व्हेन इट कम्स टू कमर्शियल शिपिंग, राइट. अभी हम फिर इंटरनेशनल सेक्शन में भी विल कवर कि इंटरनेशनल मैरीटाइम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ने जो मिशन स्टार्ट किया था टू इवैक्यूएट 11,000 seafarers who are stranded in the Strait of Hormuz, they have also stopped that particular mission, right now. And Iran has made United States of America responsible for this, because they have said that the kind of approach adopted by United States of America that undermines the control of Iran over the Strait of Hormuz. Now, person converting to Islam can't claim backward class status, said by Madras High Court. So we have a lot of, in last 2 months we had a lot of discussion about people converting from one religion to other, and what's the possible impact of that conversion on their caste status, right. तो इस पर्टिकुलर कॉन्टेक्स्ट में हमने अभी कुछ टाइम पहले चिंतड़ा आनंद वर्सेस स्टेट ऑफ आंध्र प्रदेश कवर किया था. उसमें हमने ये कवर किया था कि अगर कोई पर्सन शेड्यूल्ड कास्ट का है बट वो हिंदुइज्म से बुद्धिज्म या सिखिज्म के अलावा अगर किसी और रिलीजन में कन्वर्ट करता है, देन ही हैज टू लूज द स्टेटस ऑफ शेड्यूल्ड caste. It was said by the Supreme Court of India in Chintula Anand versus State of Andhra Pradesh that the status of scheduled caste is only limited to the people belonging to Hinduism or professing Hinduism, Buddhism or Sikhism. If a person who is from scheduled caste community is converting to some other religion apart from Hinduism, Buddhism and Sikhism, then his status of scheduled caste would be revoked immediately. So finally, in the similar context, Madras High Court had said a person converting to Islam can't claim backward class status. A convert to Islam cannot claim the status of a backward class Muslim. He is only a Muslim, and that's all there is to it. The Madurai bench of the Madras High Court has ruled while declaring a 2024 government order allowing converts to claim such status unconstitutional, right. So finally the Madras High Court have made it absolutely clear कि अगर कोई इंसान backward class community को belong कर रहा है and that particular person is converting to Islam, तो वो सिर्फ मुस्लिम कंसीडर किया जाएगा. दैट पर्सन विल नॉट बी कंसीडर्ड एज अ मुस्लिम ऑफ बैकवर्ड क्लास, right. He would be only considered as a Muslim. And in the same context, they have also held an order passed by the government as unconstitutional because it is against the established principles of the Constitution of India, right. So ये चीज बहुत मतलब ये काफी प्रोग्रेसिव जजमेंट्स जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट या जो मद्रास हाई कोर्ट या जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल कोर्ट्स पास करे, these are very very progressive judgments and one should hail these judgments, right. Now this is something which we have to discuss in detail. India's eastern borders affected by flow of opium from Myanmar. Now so before 2022, so let me give you a context of this, and this is a very interesting topic. You would love it. That's my guarantee that you would love this particular topic. And why I'm saying this, because it has a lot of masala in it. So we know that in 2021 when America left Afghanistan, the entire administration was taken over by the Taliban. Now in 2022, the interim government under Taliban, they passed an order banning drugs and opium production. So what happened, students? Till 2022, Afghanistan was the largest producer of, till 2022, Afghanistan was largest producer of opium in the world. But after this particular order was passed by the Taliban administration, what happened? That Myanmar took over as the leading producer of opium in the world, right. और जब से आंग सांग सूकी की जो डेमोक्रेटिकली इलेक्टेड गवर्नमेंट थी, उस गवर्नमेंट को जब से ओवर पावर किया गया था, तो म्यांमार की मिलिट्री को बहुत सारा फंड भी चाहिए था अपने इंटरनल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट को फाइनेंस करने के लिए, जुंता रेबेलियन को फाइनेंस करने के लिए. सो दे सब्सटैंशियली इंक्रीज द प्रोडक्शन ऑफ ओपीएम. नाउ why the product increase in the production of opium by Myanmar is a problem for India? The main problem for India is that Myanmar shares a border of 1643 kilometer with इंडिया. म्यांमार इंडिया के साथ में 1643 किलोमीटर का बॉर्डर शेयर करता है, एंड दिस बॉर्डर इज अनफेंस्ड. नाउ मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ होम अफेयर्स हैव ऑलरेडी पास्ड or allocated approximately 31,000 crore rupees to fence the entire India Myanmar border, but till this point of time, I mean the maximum portion is still unfenced. The fencing has started, but abhi bhi maximum portion jo hai wo unfenced hai. Now the second important point related to this particular conflict is कि म्यांमार और इंडिया ने एक अग्रीमेंट साइन कर रखा था जिसका नाम था फ्री मूवमेंट regime. Now this free movement regime has been suspended. It has been suspended by the Indian government. Now it is no more in existence. But free movement regime का importance क्या है यहाँ पर? Free movement regime का importance क्या है? So that is also relevant. अब when we talk about students free movement regime, तो free movement regime में आप एक चीज याद रखिएगा. Let's take one example. कि this side we have Myanmar, एंड दिस साइड वी हैव 4 इंडियन स्टेट्स जो बॉर्डर शेयर करते हैं किसके साथ में? म्यांमार के साथ में. तो फ्री मूवमेंट ये रिजीम था कि ये जो बॉर्डरिंग एरियाज हैं यहां पर जो इंडियन सिटीजन्स रहते हैं ये 16 किलोमीटर. नाउ आई विल एक्सप्लेन यू इट इन डिटेल व्हाट इज फ्री मूवमेंट रिजीम. Popularly known as FMR, it has been suspended. It has been suspended by the government of India. So now let's talk about one scenario. So यहाँ पर इस साइड क्या है? म्यांमार है, और यहाँ पर इस साइड पे क्या है? 4 इंडियन स्टेट्स हैं. Here we have Mizoram. Then we have, after Mizoram we have Manipur. And after Manipur we have Nagaland. And then we have अरुणाचल प्रदेश. राइट. सो ये 4 इंडियन स्टेट्स हैं जो डायरेक्ट बॉर्डर शेयर करते हैं किसके साथ में? म्यांमार के साथ में. अब हमने म्यांमार के साथ में क्या साइन कर रखा था? म्यांमार के साथ में हमने साइन कर रखा था फ्री मूवमेंट रिजीम. व्हाट वाज फ्री मूवमेंट रिजीम? कि जो ये इंडिया म्यांमार का बॉर्डर है, द बॉर्डर ऑफ इंडिया एंड म्यांमार, दिस बॉर्डर ऑफ इंडिया एंड म्यांमार, इसमें जो इंडियन सिटीजन्स हैं वो विद इन 16 किलोमीटर्स म्यांमार के आ सकते हैं, और जो म्यांमार के सिटीजन्स हैं वो इंडियन बॉर्डर्स के 16 किलोमीटर तक अंदर तक आ सकते हैं विदाउट हैविंग एनी रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ फॉर्मल डॉक्यूमेंटेशन. आप बिना किसी डॉक्यूमेंट के, जस्ट बिकॉज यू आर इंडियन सिटीजन, इट इज इनफ कि आप म्यांमार के बॉर्डर के अंदर 16 किलोमीटर तक एंटर कर सकते हैं. एंड जस्ट बिकॉज यू आर अ सिटीजन ऑफ म्यांमार, आप इंडियन बॉर्डर के अंदर 16 किलोमीटर तक बिना किसी डॉक्यूमेंट के एंटर कर सकते हैं. सो दिस वाज फ्री मूवमेंट रिजीम. नाउ दिस वाज सस्पेंडेड इन 2024 एंड वन ऑफ द प्राइमरी रीजंस वाज कि काफी सारा जो ओपीएम स्मगल हो रहा था वो इंडिया म्यांमार बॉर्डर के थ्रू हो रहा था. एंड दिस फ्री मूवमेंट रिजीम was one of the main actors which used to facilitate the opium smuggling in India, right? So this is the main reason why India suspended free movement regime, right? So now moving on to the next important aspect. अभी आप इसको बहुत अच्छे से समझ लीजिए that why free movement regime is important. तो और total border कितना शेयर करता है? म्यांमार इंडिया के साथ में, तो टोटल बॉर्डर इज 1643 किलोमीटर, राइट। 1643 किलोमीटर का बॉर्डर शेयर करता है म्यांमार हमारे साथ में, एंड म्यांमार इज एक्सट्रीमली इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर इंडिया। एंड वाई म्यांमार इज एक्सट्रीमली इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर इंडिया? बिकॉज वी हैव अ पॉलिसी विच इज नोन एज Act East policy. It is a very important policy of India. It is Act East policy is a very important policy of India, and this policy is there to ensure that India shares its good relations with the countries in the ईस्टर्न पार्ट ऑफ द हेमिस्फेयर, राइट। तो अब ये सारी चीजें थी। अब क्या हुआ जब जुंता रिबेलियन स्टार्ट हुआ, व्हेन जुंता रिबेलियन स्टार्टेड, व्हेन आंग सांग सू की वाज ओवरपावर्ड, सो दे नीड अ लॉट ऑफ मनी, द आर्मी ऑफ म्यांमार नीड अ लॉट ऑफ मनी, सो दे स्टार्टेड टू स्मगल ओपियम थ्रू दिस बॉर्डर, थ्रू इंडिया म्यांमार बॉर्डर। और अब क्या हुआ, अब रिसेंट में देखिए, अब हम वापस से आ जाते हैं अपने डिस्कशन पे। सो दिस इज इंटायरली अबाउट, so following the 2022 Taliban imposed ban on drugs in Afghanistan, Myanmar has emerged as an alternative source of global opium supply. So that I have already told you that what happened, that in 2022 when Taliban banned the production of opium and they banned all sort of drugs. So what happened, before this particular ban, Afghanistan was the largest producer of opium in the world, and after this particular policy was adopted by the Afghanistan, Myanmar substantially increase the production of opium। और म्यांमार का जो जोग्राफिकल कंडीशन है, दैट इज सूटेबल फॉर द प्रोडक्शन ऑफ ओपियम, जिसको हम पॉपी बोलते हैं, राइट। सो व्हाट म्यांमार डिड, दे स्टार्टेड द प्रोडक्शन और दे इंक्रीज द प्रोडक्शन ऑफ ओपियम, एंड नाउ दे आर द लार्जेस्ट प्रोड्यूसर ऑफ ओपियम इन द वर्ल्ड। तो उन्होंने क्या किया, उस पर्टिकुलर बैन के बाद हमारे कंट्री के साथ म्यांमार ने फ्री मूवमेंट रिजीम साइन कर रखा था, एंड अंडर दैट पर्टिकुलर अग्रीमेंट द सिटीजंस ऑफ इंडिया एंड म्यांमार कैन ट्रेवल विद इन द बाउंड्रीज ऑफ ईच अदर कंट्री for 16 kilometer, up to the distance of 16 kilometer, without having a requirement of proper documentation, right? So this became a main reason of opium smuggling in our country. Now अब हमारा बॉर्डर भी जो 1643 किलोमीटर का था, दैट बॉर्डर वाज आल्सो अनफेंस्ड। सो ग्लोबल ओपियम सप्लाई एंड द कॉन्सिक्वेंसेज आर ऑलरेडी विजिबल अलोंग इंडियाज ईस्टर्न बॉर्डर्स थ्रू द मणिपुर कॉरिडोर, द नारकोटिक्स कंट्रोल ब्यूरो सेड इन इट्स 2026 एनुअल रिपोर्ट। द रिपोर्ट रिलीज्ड ऑन फ्राइडे बाय होम मिनिस्टर अमित शाह हाइलाइटेड फैक्ट्स दैट नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न स्टेट्स ऑफ मणिपुर, मिजोरम, नागालैंड आर bearing the sharpest frontline exposure due to the enhanced production of drugs in Myanmar. That I have already told you that the production of poppy or the production of opium has been increased, and all these states which are sharing direct border with Myanmar, they have to face the direct consequences, right? तो अभी इसी चीज में पूरा, इसी चीज को पूरा इसमें एक्सप्लेन किया गया डिटेल में कि कितना सीजर का केसेस हुआ, नारकोटिक्स का कहाँ कहाँ पे। सो दैट इज नॉट रिलेवेंट, बट दिस इंटायर इशू ऑफ मणिपुर, मिजोरम, नागालैंड, अरुणाचल प्रदेश, म्यांमार is extremely important for us. And remember this one point, that the fact that Myanmar is the largest producer of opium in the world, right? Then also the Narcotic Drug and Psychotropic Substances Act, NDPS Act, is the primary act which is which controls which curtails the production, and it regulates the entire issue of narcotics in our country. So basically the government had said the NDPS Act and rules will be updated to address emerging challenges. So challenges like these जो हमने अभी discuss किए, these challenges will be addressed by the government of India by making substantial changes in the NDPS Act, and these changes will be made soon. हम expect कर सकते हैं कि upcoming जो monsoon session है उसमें the government will make certain amendments, and also the government has presented a document which is known as the Vision Document of Drug Control, the Vision Document on Drug Control 2026 to 2029, and it was released by the Home Minister of our country, Mr. Amit Shah, right? So this is entirely about controlling the exposure to the narcotics, and how the government could act in an efficient manner to control the growing urge of drug consumption in our country, and also the illicit smuggling of or illegal smuggling of narcotic substances in our country. Now UCC will be implemented in Bengal through proper procedure, right? So basically we have recently discussed a fact, and this is just a coincidence. There is nothing substantial out of it. This is merely a coincidence. And what is a coincidence? That most of the states, not most of the, all of the states which are bringing this uniform civil code, most of these states are BJP ruled states. First it was Uttarakhand, then Gujarat, then Chhattisgarh, then Assam, then Chhattisgarh constituted a committee, and last week we discussed that Madhya Pradesh has also constituted a committee under the chairmanship of Justice Ranjana Prakash Desai to draft uniform civil code. Now finally another BJP ruled state, West Bengal, and West Bengal's chief minister Mr. Suvendu Adhikari had given a sharp remark that uniform civil code will also be implemented or will be enforced in West Bengal through proper channels. Now when we talk about uniform civil code, student, please remember one point, that Article 44 of the Indian Constitution, Part 4, Article 44 of the Indian Constitution talks about the principle of uniform civil code. But if you look at the definition of uniform civil code, per se Article 44 does not define what is uniform civil code. You will only see a statement under Article 44, and what is that statement? That every state in India shall endeavor to have a uniform civil code. It does not define what is uniform civil code. So what is uniform civil code? Uniform civil code is a common personal law for every religion, irrespective of your religion. You have similar laws for marriage, you have similar laws for divorce, you will have similar laws for adoption, you will have similar laws for inheritance, and you will have similar laws for divorce, succession, adoption, marriage, divorce, and inheritance. You will have similar laws irrespective of your religion. So now Mr. Suvendu Adhikari has asserted this fact that in Bengal, uniform civil code will be implemented in a very structured and in a very smooth manner, and the government will not the government is not in a hurry. They will do it, and eventually it will be implemented just like Uttarakhand, Gujarat, Assam, and every other state. It will follow a procedure to implement the same, right? So nothing substantial out of it. Once the committee is formed, then we will start our discussion with the same in the same manner कि committee constitute की गई है, committee में member कौन है, chairman कौन है, what are the special features of this uniform civil code, और कोई special feature नहीं है. Almost जितने भी states में अभी तक uniform civil code implement किया गया, all the features are almost similar. polygamy ban कर दिया गया है, right? Divorces ke grounds are similar. You have to register your live-in relationships and your marriage as well, right? So most of the grounds or most of the features of all the uniform civil codes are similar. Now there you can on the right side of your screen you can see a term Katcha Thivu. Now basically students, when we talk about the issue of Katcha Thivu island, so the Katcha Thivu is nothing but it is an island. ये एक island है इंडिया और श्रीलंका के बीच में, right? Katcha Thivu is an island. When we talk, it is situated between India and Sri Lanka, right? So we know this, students, when we talk about India and Sri Lanka. अब इंडिया और श्रीलंका के बारे में एक चीज तो हम सब लोगों को पता है, एंड व्हाट इज दैट थिंग, कि भाई ऐसा कुछ इंडिया का नीचे का कोस्टल लाइन है और यहां पे ऐसा कुछ श्रीलंका है, राइट? दिस इज इंडिया, दिस इज श्रीलंका. Now students, India and Sri Lanka are separated by a water body, and this water body is known as Pak Strait. Pak Strait separates India and Sri Lanka, and here we have Katcha Thivu. Katcha Thivu Island. Now, what is the dispute of Katcha Thivu Island? What is the dispute of Katcha Thivu Island? So, Katcha Thivu Island has a very long-standing dispute. It is not something new, but this dispute was, sorted in the year 1974. And what happened in 1974, students? So, in 1974, we signed a maritime agreement with Sri Lanka. And at that time, the government under Indira Gandhi handed over this Katcha Thivu Island to Sri Lanka. Now, at this point of time, there is no strategic relevance of Katcha Thivu Island. But again, it is actually very important because this is a huge island and it has an area of 285 एकड़ 285 एकड़ का इसका ये पूरा आइलैंड का एरिया है. Now, what is this particular issue? What is this particular issue? So, जब से जिस particular point से 1974 में this कच्चा थी वो island has been handed over to Sri Lanka. So, भारतीय जनता पार्टी has said it multiple times कि हमने अपनी country की जो एक territory थी, we have ceded our territory to a different country. But this particular action was taken by the government to sort our long standing dispute with Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka is a good partner of India. Sri Lanka is a very friendly country, so we never wanted to have this particular issue with them. So we transferred the ownership of this island to Sri Lanka in 1974 through a maritime agreement, right? So this was something which is of great importance. Now moving on to the next important point. अब इंडिया और श्रीलंका के बीच में एक इशू तो बहुत रहता है ना कि फिशरमैन जो होते हैं, कभी वो इंटरनेशनल वाटर क्रॉस करके श्रीलंका में पहुंच जाते हैं, तो वो उनको कैप्चर कर लेते हैं, फिर श्रीलंका के फिशरमैन हमारे यहाँ जाते हैं तो हम उनको कैप्चर कर लेते हैं. नाउ बट देर इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग कि भाई जो 1974 में मैरीटाइम अग्रीमेंट साइन हुआ था स्टूडेंट्स, एज पर दैट मैरीटाइम अग्रीमेंट जो इंडियन फिशरमैन है, दोज इंडियन फिशरमैन वर अलाउड to have access to the कच्चाथीवू आइलैंड, राइट. अब इसमें फैक्चुअली तो ये सारे रेलेवेंट पॉइंट हैं. अब एक इसमें इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट और है, देयर इज अ फेस्टिवल. विद दिस फेस्टिवल इज एक्चुअली वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, एंड दैट फेस्टिवल इज नोन एज सेंट एंथनीज फेस्टिवल. इसको बोलते हैं सेंट एंथनीज फेस्टिवल. एंड दिस सेंट एंथनीज फेस्टिवल इज सेलिब्रेटेड एट कच्चाथीवू आइलैंड. तो जब ये सेंट एंथनीज फेस्टिवल होता है, सो द पीपल्स फ्रॉम द सिटीजन्स ऑफ बोथ द कंट्रीज दे कैन गो टू कच्चाथीवू आइलैंड टू सेलिब्रेट दिस सेंट एंथनीज फेस्टिवल which is being conducted at St. Anthony's Church. Now moving on to the next point. तो अभी दोनों countries के devotees आकर के they celebrate this St. Anthony's festival at St. Anthony's Church. So Congress surrendered Kachathivu to Sri Lanka, says BJP. So again, students, we have to understand, and with the with more and more reading, you will understand that there are certain statements, there are certain political statements which are relevant for your examination, because Kachathivu Island हम 2024 का जब से elections थे, जनरल इलेक्शन थे, तब से इसके बारे में बहुत सारा डिस्कशन हुआ है. एंड ऑन 26th of June 1974 this maritime agreement was signed. So yesterday we kind of marked 52nd anniversary of this particular day when Indian government transferred कच्चाथीवू आइलैंड टू श्रीलंका. तो उसी 52nd एनिवर्सरी पे द स्पोक्सपर्सन ऑफ भारतीय जनता पार्टी मिस्टर शुभेंदु अधिकारी वाज बैशिंग इंडियन नेशनल कांग्रेस कि भाई आप ही के पार्टी के लीडर्स थे जिन्होंने क्या किया था, कच्चाथीवू आइलैंड श्रीलंका को दे दिया था. हमें इस स्टेटमेंट से कोई मतलब नहीं है. वी हैव नो कंसिडरेशन फॉर द स्टेटमेंट गिवन बाय मिस्टर शुभेंदु अधिकारी, बट वी आर concerned about all the factual information related to the Kachathivu Island, which I have already explained to you in detail. Apart from this, you don't have to keep anything in your mind. Now moving on to the next point. So Mr. Rahul Gandhi has successfully completed 2 years as a leader of opposition in Lok Sabha. So this is a kind of achievement for him. So now moving on to the next point that we should discuss. और आज तो सैटरडे, सो वी नो दिस कि सैटरडे में हमें ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं लगता है, बट वी विल टेक सम टाइम. आज हमें थोड़ा सा टाइम लगने वाला है. So the cracks beneath the peddled story of India's growth. So for over a decade, the Narendra Modi government has projected India as the world's fastest growing major economy, an emerging manufacturing hub, a Vishwaguru, a global power, a preferred destination for global capital, and a Viksit Bharat on a track for 2047. Yet behind this carefully crafted narrative lies a more troubling reality. The economy faces multiple external shocks while carrying deep structural weakness that threaten its long-term prospects. So if we talk about the tone of author in the first passage, so the tone of author is a tone of concern, right? The kind of claim which are being made by the Modi government, the claims are actually not real, because we have a lot of international scrutiny and pressure upon our country, and India is basically, and India is also under scrutiny because of an investigation started by the United States of America. It is related to the violation of Section 301 of the Trades Act of 1974. Trades Act of 1974. And what is Section 301 of Trades Act of 1974? It is very simple. It talks about only one fact कि क्या जो हम goods and services manufacture कर रहे हैं हमारे country में, जिनको हम export करते हैं अमेरिका में, are we using some kind of child labor or forced labor to manufacture those goods and services, right? So this is one important aspect, and there are certain international principles or certain international aspects involved in this particular context, कि जो हम एक्चुअली में बता रहे हैं कि हमारी कंट्री जिस स्पेस पे डेवलप करे एक्चुअली में उस स्पेस पे डेवलप नहीं कर रही है. और देन द सेकंड इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट इज इंपोर्टेड एनर्जी ग्रोइंग रिस्क. सो बेसिकली इस हेडिंग का मतलब सिर्फ इतना है, how we are dependent on foreign countries for our own energy securities, because we import almost 90% of our natural oil demand from some foreign country, and the closure of Strait of Hormuz actually exposed Indian infrastructure or Indian system of importing crude oil from some other country, then weakening rural safety nets. So the importance of this particular point is the government or the author has criticized the policy of the union government, where दे सेट कि भाई मनरेगा के अंडर जो कॉस्ट शेयरिंग का रेशियो था सेंटर और स्टेट के बीच में, दैट वाज 90:10. 90% सेंटर बियर करती थी, 10% स्टेट बियर करती थी. बट अंडर द अमेंडेड एक्ट ऑफ विच इज वीबीजी रामजी, अब कॉस्ट शेयरिंग रेशियो कितना हो गया, 60:40 हो गया, राइट? सो रूरल सेफ्टी नेट भी जो था उसको भी थोड़ा थोड़ा सा वीक कर रहा है, ऐसा गवर्नमेंट, ऐसा इस ऑथर का कहना है, राइट? So these are few things which are actually important. Now this is an agreement, India New Zealand free trade agreement, a modern trade partnership. So basically students, when we talk about India New Zealand free trade agreement, the most important feature of this particular free trade agreement is that it was one such free trade agreement which was signed इन अ शॉर्टेस्ट स्पैन ऑफ टाइम. हमने 8 से 9 महीने के अंदर पूरा नेगोशिएशंस कंप्लीट करके न्यूजीलैंड के साथ में ये फ्री ट्रेड अग्रीमेंट साइन कर लिया था, राइट? सो व्हाट आर द डिफरेंट फीचर्स ऑफ इंडिया न्यूजीलैंड फ्री ट्रेड अग्रीमेंट विच आर एक्सट्रीमली इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस टू डिस्कस एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम? सो लेट्स स्टार्ट विद आवर डिस्कशन रिलेटेड टू इंडिया न्यूजीलैंड फ्री ट्रेड अग्रीमेंट, राइट? So the first one is that India New Zealand free trade agreement. The first important point is that both countries will double the bilateral trade to $5 billion by 2030. Second one is New Zealand has committed to infuse 15 billion US dollars, 15 billion US dollars through foreign direct investment in next how many years? Sorry, it is 20 billion US dollars. New Zealand has committed 20 billion US dollars. 20 billion US dollars in the period of next 15 years. So the first main objective is to double down trade to $5 billion by 2030. The second objective is to, that New Zealand will invest $20 billion in next 15 years in Indian economy. Now the next important point related to this free trade agreement is that New Zealand will provide 100% access to Indian exports, 100% duty free access to 100% duty free access to Indian exports. Right. So this is actually very important for India, that New Zealand will provide 100% duty free access or zero duty to Indian export. Now moving on to the next important point that we should know, and it is actually a good news for Indian students. And what is the good news for the Indian students? So the good news is that Indian students were allowed to work for 20 hours a week while studying. Right. So with reference to the students, it is actually very important. And the next important point is post work visas. Once you have completed, post study work visas. So once you have completed your studies, so once you have completed your studies, so post work visas bhi ki jo policy hai, that is also very kind for Indian students, up to 3 years extension for STEM professionals. STEM professionals क्या होते हैं? साइंस, टेक्नोलॉजी, इंजीनियरिंग और मैथमेटिक्स के. एंड अप टू 4 years post study visa, up to 4 years for PhD scholars, right? So this is actually important for the students. Now moving on to the next point. और इसके अलावा न्यूजीलैंड ने बोला है कि भाई 1000 visas to young Indian tourists, right? 1000 visas to young Indian students, right? So these are the certain aspects of a free trade agreement that is extremely relevant for us to understand. And currently the bilateral trade between India and New Zealand is at $2.4 billion, जिसको हम डबल डाउन कर देंगे 2030 तक $5 billion तक. ठीक है. And the last relevant point related to this India New Zealand free trade agreement is कि इंडिया अब न्यूजीलैंड हमारे कंट्री में जो जोग्राफिकल इंडिकेशन टैग मिलता है, न्यूजीलैंड अभी सिर्फ और सिर्फ इंडियन वाइन्स और स्पिरिट्स को ही परमिट करता है, दैट दे कैन बी रजिस्टर्ड. इंडियन जीआई टैग जो परमिट है रजिस्ट्रेशन का, वो सिर्फ वाइन्स और स्पिरिट्स के लिए, बट आफ्टर दिस फ्री ट्रेड अग्रीमेंट इट वुड बी अलाउड फॉर अदर सेक्टर्स एज वेल, राइट? सो दीज आर द सर्टेन पॉइंट्स रिलेटेड टू इंडिया न्यूजीलैंड फ्री ट्रेड अग्रीमेंट which are extremely important for India. Now this free trade agreement is yet to be enforced. It was finally signed in the month of final signing has already been done, but it is yet to be enforced. जो इसकी फर्स्ट रीडिंग है वो ऑलरेडी न्यूजीलैंड पार्लियामेंट में हो चुकी है, एंड सून वी कैन एक्सपेक्ट दैट बाय द एंड ऑफ दिस ईयर this particular free trade agreement might be enforced as well, right? And it is a very futuristic free trade agreement for India because smaller countries like New Zealand, when we sign free trade agreement with the smaller countries like New Zealand, because they have a great purchasing power parity, right? So these markets can be a great scope, or this market of New Zealand can be a great platform for the Indian goods and services. So that's why these kind of free trade agreement like New Zealand, like Oman, right, ये हमारे लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है, एंड दिस कैन चेंज द एंटायर कोर्स ऑफ इंडियन ट्रेड विद न्यूजीलैंड, राइट? नाउ मूविंग ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट. आज हमारे पास टेक्स्ट एंड कॉन्टेक्स्ट वाला सेक्शन नहीं होगा. दिस इज रिलेटेड टू अ फेटल इंसिडेंट दैट अकर्ड इन लखनऊ वेयर 15 वंडरफुल सोल्स लॉस्ट देयर लाइव्स. फिर अभी जो भारत भूषण तिवारी का एक इनकाउंटर हुआ है बिहार में, जिसको लेकर के काफ़ी ज़्यादा अटेंशन मिल रहा है, और मिलना भी चाहिए, बिकॉज दिस वाज समथिंग विच कुड हैव बीन अवॉइडेड. जुडिशियल इंक्वायरीज का कंडक्ट किया जा रहा है, बिकॉज द इनिशियल विजुअल्स विच आर अवेलेबल ऑन द सोशल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म, उस पर यही देखने को मिलता है दैट मिस्टर भारत भूषण तिवारी ही सरेंडर्ड, एंड डिस्पाइट सरेंडरिंग द अथॉरिटीज शॉट 5 times, और फिर उनकी ऑन द स्पॉट डेथ हो जाती है, राइट? सो इट इज गेटिंग अ लॉट ऑफ मीडिया अटेंशन, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट द चीफ मिनिस्टर ऑफ Bihar, Mr. Samrat Chaudhary has ordered a judicial inquiry in this particular issue. So IMO pauses Gulf vessel evacuation as Iran attack ship. तो ये मैं आप लोगों को already बता चुका हूँ that International Maritime Organization which started an evacuation operation to evacuate 11,000 stranded seafarers in the Persian Gulf. So after this particular attack was done by Iran, तो उन्होंने क्या किया, उस पूरे मिशन को भी रोक दिया for a while because of the safety issues, right? Now Lebanon and Israel, they have signed a kind of a temporary conditional performance based agreement. और वो agreement basically है कि there are certain conditions which Lebanon has to fulfill if they don't want Israel to attack their territory, right? अब इसमें हेजबुल्ला का भी रोल बहुत important हो जाएगा. Trump threatens another threat by Donald Trump. It is of no use how Trump's post on Iran zigzagged during the war. अभी अगर आपको ये ट्रंप का मेंटालिटी पढ़ना है, डोनाल्ड ट्रंप का, आप इस आर्टिकल को पढ़िएगा, आपको बहुत अच्छे से पता चलेगा कि एक वर्ड लीडर को कौन कौन से टर्म्स, किस तरीके का लैंग्वेज यूज नहीं करना चाहिए, राइट? एंड दे वो बेसिकली डिफीटेड इन दैट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, राइट? पता नहीं इतना कॉन्फिडेंस और इतना वो सेल्फ प्राइड आता कहाँ से, बट अगेन this is something which is actually important. In the sports section we have nothing relevant at this point of time, we have nothing relevant. It's all F1 and football. फिर वो rankings जो होती हैं, weekly rankings वो दी गई, but this test is important as discussed. This particular test is from the is basically these are the important days of January 2026, and issues or the information related to the important days of January 2026, and it will cover certain important aspects. So let's start with our discussion. So this is your question number 1. Under the flagship PM Setu Pradhan Mantri Skilling and Employability Transformation through Upgraded Initiative, how many industrial training institutes are targeted for structural upgrades through a government owned industry managed hub and spoke model? 500, 1000, 1500 or 2000? Which is the correct option for question number 1? ये basically जो National Youth Day होता है, which is the birth anniversary of Swami Vivekanand. So जो यूथ है हमारे कंट्री का, उसको स्किल एनहांसमेंट के लिए दिस इज अ फ्लैगशिप इनिशिएटिव विच इज नोन एज पीएम सेतु. सो अंडर पीएम सेतु, हाउ मेनी ITIs इंडस्ट्रियल ट्रेनिंग इंस्टीट्यूट्स आर सेट टू बी अपग्रेडेड? सो योर ऑप्शंस आर 500, 1000, 1500 and 2000, because Swami Vivekanand is considered as a youth icon, right? So यूथ को, यूथ की स्किल एनहांसमेंट से रिलेटेड ही स्किल स्कीम है पीएम सेतु. इस पीएम सेतु स्कीम के अंडर कितने इंडस्ट्रियल ट्रेनिंग इंस्टीट्यूट हैं जिनको अपग्रेड किया जाएगा? सो द करेक्ट ऑप्शन फॉर क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 इज ऑप्शन बी, 1000. Now we'll move to question number 2. During his spiritual reflections in 1892, Swami Vivekanand swam to a rock off the coast of Kanyakumari for meditation. In which specific water body is the Vivekanand Rock Memorial situated? Now this is a very tricky question. It needs certain basic understanding of the geography of India. तो अभी आप अगर इस क्वेश्चन को आंसर कर सकते हैं, दिस मीन्स दैट योर बेसिक ज्योग्राफी इज क्लियर. अरेबियन सी, लक्षद्वीप सी, बे ऑफ बंगाल और इंडियन ओशन. सो स्वामी विवेकानंद रॉक मेमोरियल जो है, ठीक है, ये कौन से ओशन में सिचुएटेड है? एनीवन वुड लाइक टू आंसर द क्वेश्चन? विवेकानंद रॉक मेमोरियल इज सिचुएटेड इन विच ओशन? एनीवन? Anyone who would like to answer the question? Vivekanand Memorial is situated in which ocean? तो विवेकानंद रॉक मेमोरियल इज सिचुएटेड इन इंडियन ओशन. प्लीज ये सारे फैक्ट्स आप लोग याद रखिए. ये याद रखिए कि अगर ये इंडिया है तो अरेबियन सी किधर है, इंडियन ओशन किधर है, बे ऑफ बंगाल किधर है, अंडमान निकोबार किधर है, लक्षद्वीप किधर है. ये सब बेसिक फैक्ट्स है, आपको ये पता होना चाहिए. हमारा कोस्ट लाइन कितना है, स्टेट्स और यूटीज कितने हैं, सबसे बड़ा स्टेट कौन सा है, सबसे छोटा स्टेट कौन सा है. Now the historic 78th Indian Army Day parade on January 15th, 2026 marked a significant milestone as the first instance of the event was organized completely outside a cantonment area. In which city was this parade held? So for this specific reason, this particular topic is important कि पहली बार जो आर्मी डे परेड होती है वो कैंटोनमेंट एरिया के बाहर हुई है. तो आपको ये बताना है कि कौन से पर्टिकुलर प्लेस पर ये parade हुई है. लखनऊ, पुणे, जयपुर एंड बेंगलुरु. So where did this parade took place? So the correct answer is Jaipur. The 78th Indian Army Day parade took place at Jaipur. It is for the first time that the parade took place outside a cantonment area, and for the first time Bhairav Battalion participated in this particular parade which happened or which took place at which took place in Jaipur. Now, question number 4. With an active strength of approximately 1.4 million personnel, the Indian Army stands as world's largest standing army. Which country's active military personnel strength does it surpass to hold this top rank? So you have to tell the correct answer that India has the longest or the world's largest standing army. हमारे पास 1.4 million soldiers हैं. अभी आपको ये बताना है कि सेकंड नंबर पे कौन सा कंट्री है. यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका, रशिया, नॉर्थ कोरिया और चाइना. Which is the second? Which country is the second, or which country has the second largest standing army in the world? First is India with 1.4 million active personnel, and the second one is China. Active soldiers की बात हो रही है. The theme, now this is actually very important. The theme for National Voters Day 2026, celebrated on January 25, focuses heavily on designing citizen-centric electoral process. What is the official tagline assigned to the theme My India, My Vote? So this was the official tagline. What is the official tagline assigned to the theme My India, My Vote? No voter to be left behind. Citizens at the heart of Indian democracy. Inclusive and qualitative elections. Empowering the youth of independent India. Question number 5. So official theme for the 2026 National Voters Day is My India, My Vote. And what is the tagline that has been associated with the theme of National Voters Day? We celebrate National Voters Day every year on January 25th, and the reason is Election Commission of India was established on 25th of January 1950. So this is the primary reason that why we celebrate National Voters Day on 25th of January every year. And Election Commission of India is a constitutional body established under Article 324 of the Indian Constitution, 324 of the Indian Constitution. So what is the associated tagline with the theme of the National Voters Day, My India, My Vote? So the associated theme is Citizen at the Heart of Indian Democracy. Citizen at the Heart of Indian Democracy was the associated tagline with the theme My India, My Vote. Now moving on to question number 6. So that this question we have already discussed. Under the provisions of the Indian Constitution, the Election Commission of India was established on January 25th, 1950 as a multi-member constitutional body. Which article provides the legal basis for the establishment of the Election Commission of India? You have 4 options for this: Article 324, 315, 326 or 338. Anyone who would like to answer the question, the floor is absolutely yours. I have already told you the answer of question number 6, which is the correct option for question number 6, students. Which is the correct option for question number 6? So the correct option for question number 6 is Article 324. Article 324 of the Indian Constitution gives the legal status or the constitutional status to the Election Commission of India, because Election Commission of India is established under Article 324. Now moving on to question number 7. The 77th Republic Day Parade in 2026 featured the dramatic public and operational debut of which newly raised specialized infantry unit of the Indian Army? Prabal Regiment, Akshatir Regiment, Bhairav Battalion or Suryastra Brigade. So which Indian or which specialized infantry of the Indian Army for the first time participated in the in the 77th Republic Day Parade? Prabal Regiment, Akshatir Battalion, Bhairav Battalion or Suryastra Brigade. Question number 7. So for question number 7, students, the correct answer is it is a specialized infantry unit. Bhairav Battalion, इसको newly raised किया गया. It is a newly raised battalion. So आप ये भी याद रखिएगा that but Bhairav Battalion is a newly raised battalion. Right? So that is one important aspect which is actually important. तो आप इसे याद रखेंगे. So for question number 7, students, the correct option is option C, Bhairav Battalion. Now we'll move to question number 8. The Purna Swaraj Declaration, which originally set the course for India's complete independence from British Dominion status, was passed by the Indian National Congress at its historic Lahore session. In which year was this session held? 1928, 1929, 1930 or 1947? So आपको ये बताना है that in which year Lahore session took place, where this Purna Swaraj Pact was introduced or the Purna Swaraj Pact was passed? 1928, 1929, 1930, 1947. So the Purna Swaraj Pact was passed at Lahore session in 1929, and the Lahore session was, and the Purna Swaraj Pact was endorsed in 1930, and on 26th of January 1930 it was decided that from now onwards, from this day onwards, Indians will celebrate their Independence Day every year on 26th of January, right? इसीलिए हमारा Constitution 26th of January 1949 को बन करके ready था, but we waited for 2 months to enforce that particular document, क्योंकि there is a relevance, historic relevance of that particular date, right? Now moving on to question number 9. At the 77th Republic Day Parade, Gujarat's tableau paid a historic tribute to a pioneering revolutionary who unfurled the first version of the Indian flag in Stuttgart, Germany in 1907. Who was this personality? Now, this is a very important question. 77th Republic Day Parade में जो गुजरात का टैब्लोएक्स था, जो परेड होती है कर्तव्य पथ पे, वहां पर जो गुजरात का टैब्लोएक्स था, जो झांकी थी बेसिकली, दैट टैब्लोएक्स पेड अ ट्रिब्यूट टू अ पायनियरिंग रिवोल्यूशनरी, जिन्होंने पहली बार इंडियन फ्लैग अनफर्ल किया था स्टटगार्ट जर्मनी में. हु वाज दैट पर्सनालिटी? मतनागिनी हाजरा, मैडम भिखाजी कामा, सरोजिनी नायडू और अरुणा आसफ अली. क्वेश्चन नंबर 9 is extremely important for your examination. So what is the correct answer for question number 9? So in 1907, students, for the first time, Indian flag was unfurled by Madam Bhikaji Kama in Germany. So आप स्टटगार्ट जर्मनी में पहली बार मैडम भिखाजी कामा ने इंडियन फ्लैग अनफर्ल किया था जर्मनी में 1907 में. So her name is actually very important. And why her name is actually important? Because at the 77th Republic Day Parade, the Gujarat tabloids paid tribute to her. Punjab's 2026 Republic Day tabloid paid a solemn tribute to Sikh Guru on the 350th anniversary of his martyrdom, honoring his legacy at Hind Di Chadar. Who was this historic figure? Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji, Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji, Shri Guru Arjun Dev Ji, Shri Guru Har Gobind Ji. So, पंजाब ने किस गुरु को अपना जो ऑनर किया एट द 77th Republic Day Parade? So the correct answer for question number 10. So correct answer for question number 10 is student Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji. So Punjab paid a tribute to Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, and it was her 350th anniversary of his martyrdom. So tribute was paid by Punjab government. The state of Kerala's dynamic 2026 tableau showcased a high-tech modern infrastructure asset, celebrating it alongside the state's achievement of 100% digital literacy. What was this asset? Kochi Water Metro, Vizhinjam Deep Water Seaport, Kalaripattu Digital Hub, Thiruvananthapuram Quantum Valley. So what was the theme of the tableaux of Kerala government? तो पहला थीम तो इनका ये था 100% डिजिटल लिटरेसी, और 100% डिजिटल लिटरेसी के साथ में दूसरा थीम क्या था? फर्स्ट वाटर मेट्रो, दैट इज कोची वाटर मेट्रो. कोची वाटर मेट्रो. सो फॉर क्वेश्चन नंबर 11 स्टूडेंट्स, द करेक्ट ऑप्शन इज ऑप्शन ए. नाउ विल मूव टू क्वेश्चन नंबर 12. In the 2026 Padma Awards announced on the eve of the 77th Republic Day Parade, how many total honors were conferred across the Padma Vibhushan, Padma Bhushan and Padma Shri categories? So how many awardees are there in 2026 for the Padma Awards? The hierarchy of Indian civilian awards is first number पे भारत रत्न आता है, फिर पद्म विभूषण आता है, फिर पद्म भूषण आता है, फिर पद्मश्री आता है. So 2026 में on the eve of Republic Day, how many these awards were announced by the government? 70, 113, 120 or 131. So for question number 7 students, the correct option is option D. Total 131 winners थे. Civil Investiture Ceremony 1 और Ceremony 2 में इन सारे winners को award present किया जा चुका है, right? So this is all about today's session, guys. Thank you so much for watching this session. Please participate in great numbers. I mean this session is quite useful. अभी मैं वैसा तो करता नहीं हूँ कि मैं आपका 1-1.25 घंटा रोज कंज्यूम करूँ, because I know that is of no relevance. That your time is actually very important, right? And I do understand the relevance of your time. So please do come in great numbers and watch these videos, क्योंकि ultimately वो viewers उतने हो ही जाते हैं, right? But live class में भी तो बच्चे रहने चाहिए ना. Live class में you can ask questions directly, right? So this is all about today's analysis, and we'll see you tomorrow. Not tomorrow, actually day after tomorrow. Tomorrow is Sunday, so we'll see you on Monday at 7:45 in the morning. And on that note, we'll wrap up today's session. Keep on revising things. कल Sunday तो थोड़ा चीज़ों को revise कर लीजिएगा. At least जनवरी से रिवीजन स्टार्ट कर दीजिए. करंट अफेयर्स का जो भी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स हैं, अपने क्लास नोट्स, मैगजीन, सब कुछ खत्म करना शुरू कर दीजिए, क्योंकि अब जून में सिर्फ 2 दिन बचे हैं. एंड वंस जून इज गॉन, यू विल हैव एग्जैक्टली 5 months and 5 days फॉर योर एग्जामिनेशंस, राइट? सो दिस टाइम इज वेरी सेंसिटिव, वेरी फ्रेजाइल फॉर यू. और उसके बाद में आपके पास में ऑलमोस्ट 160 days बचेंगे. 160 days बचेंगे क्लैट 2027 के पहले. तो अभी आपको थोड़ा सा पुश करना है. राइट नाउ यू हैव 162 days, बट अभी आपको थोड़ा सा और पुश करना है, सो दैट यू कैन अचीव योर सेट ऑब्जेक्टिव्स, राइट? सो दिस इज ऑल अबाउट टुडेज सेशन, राइट? सो विल सी यू ऑन मंडे एट 7:45. तब तक आप लोग अपना ध्यान रखिए, ख्याल रखिए. बाय बाय.